5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're straight foot on the brake.
In-depth race recaps.
Coming to the line, Ryan Blaney's gonna do it.
Pit stops and strategy breakdown.
Way to stick with it, buddy. Proud of you. Yeah, man, really good quality in there. Good job.
Fantasy racing results and insights.
Hey, driver, great job there, bud. Hey, boss.
Your weekly destination for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Looking forward to seeing you down the victory lane.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
I'm still Team Blaney.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 218 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we're here to break down Ryan Blaney's run in the Duramax Texas Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. Steve, my mustachioed friend, welcome back to another episode of the show. After NASCAR went road course racing over the weekend from Florida to Texas, great weekend of racing, and great new look for you this week. It takes me a long time to even grow what I have. You did that in a week's time.
Yeah, pretty much. I can grow it still, which is great to know. Can't grow it on the top, but I can still grow it. So,
that's fantastic.
Good to know.
So, like I mentioned, the NASCAR Truck Series and the Cup Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series were split between two states this week. The Truck Series had their first ever street course race in St. Petersburg, Florida, for the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, part of that weekend with the IndyCar Series. I did have the opportunity to drive down there. It's not too far from where I live. Got to experience that. Been down here this is going on 16 years now. And I'd never gone down to St. Pete for that weekend. Sometimes it's because there was a NASCAR race that weekend and we couldn't get there. Sometimes it's weather. And this week, honestly, it looked like weather was going to impact things, but the rain moved out on Saturday morning, went down there, just had general admission tickets, got to walk around the airport and the streets and the parks and around the soccer field and the truck race. I think everyone thought it was going to be a wreck fest. It turned out to be possibly one of the best overall races of the weekend. The vibe was great. Lots of mix between NASCAR fans, IndyCar fans there. So I think that was a slam dunk. I hope they do it again next year. We'll probably head back down there again. And we took the opportunity, and I think you guys do this sometimes too. We're kind of wrapped up in what we're seeing at the race in person, especially there, just walking around. Came home and then immediately Saturday night just went and watched the broadcast on TV, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Great scenes and sights and trucks racing along the bayfront there is pretty awesome. So from there, everyone else was in Texas for another race at the shorter course at Circuit of the Americas, and we have plenty to talk about when it comes to that race.
The truck racing, your pictures you sent were really cool. The pictures were pretty awesome. And then Saturday and Sunday at Road America, COTA was great. Road America. COTA was great, and the action was awesome. I mean, they had it all, and I don't. A lot of people hate road courses. I love road courses, and I really saw a lot of what I wanted to see. And then a lot of people were pretty optimistic after Saturday. As a matter of fact, practice was kind of fun for Saturday. They get there's two groups. They're broke up into two groups, and Ryan's, of course, in the second group. So early on, Group 1 there, at the 71 sets the fast lap in Group 1. And the fast 5 in the Group 1 were 71, 88, the 5, the 34, and the 8. The best overall lap average was the 5. And then it was like the 5 to 10 lap average was actually the 71. And it looked like the 41 and the 2 ran 14 laps, so they ran the most laps there in the first practice. And Tim said there was 2 seconds of fall off in 10 laps. So horsepower and the package with the tires, it definitely made a difference. Kind of helping get some separation that they want.
Yeah, and what some of the drivers were saying, and I don't know it to be totally a fact, but they said like lap times weren't any faster or any slower. They're about the same as previous years, but the horsepower and how guys fire off out of turns and braking and that kind of thing, it did impact tire wear for sure.
Yeah. So Group 2, And 5 laps in, Ryan is P2 overall, and that's the combined times. So he's right behind literally the 71 by a couple hundredths, not by a couple tenths, by a couple hundredths of a lap, 99.091. And the 71 single lap was 99.023. So SVG his lap was 20th best overall. Now, mind you, it was still 99.817. So these guys are running this road course at over a minute and a half, and still within, 3 or 4 or 5 tenths of each other. So it's crazy. The fast 5 in the second group was the 12, the 7, the 77, the 16, and the 9. Of course, Ryan has the best 5-lap average, the best 10-lap average, best overall average. He was P2 to the 1 car, and they came in after 13 laps. And an average SVG was P3 in 5 and 10 lap average. Just want to kind of keep a track of that, because maybe he didn't get a good lap, but he ran some good consistent laps.
Yeah.
So, so I kind of kept track of him a little bit. So then we get to the qualifying, and there's 2 groups for the qualifying, and then we combine the times from the 2 groups. Of course, Ryan's in the second group. But 8 minutes into the first group, the 33, Jesse Love actually puts up on the pole for a little while. Then you get the 54 being that out. And then 8 minutes left, the 71 goes to P1. And at that point, the top 5 is like the 71, the 20, the 54, the 24, and the 5. And everyone was about a second faster than in practice. So you're going to have to gain on your practice time a little bit. So then we get to group 2. Like I said, they're going to merge these times together. And, after 5 minutes, nobody really went out. The 6 and the 4 went out early on. 10 minutes in, the 20 goes out, and he's P9 overall. Then the 16 goes to P2. Then the 9 then goes to P1. Then the 45 goes to P1. And he's got the 23 following him like as a rabbit, and the 23 ends up P18. But the time is 97.760. So with 7 minutes left here, there's 8 cars that still haven't went out yet. And, before Ryan had run his lap, the top 5 overall were the 45, the 9, 19, the 90, the 9, the 71, the 60. And then he takes it to P4 on his lap. And he wanted to do one more. So when he came back around, as he, it was like, can I have time for one more? So he did kind of a cool down and then hurried up and tried to run another lap. And what he said afterward was he didn't get the cleanest first lap. So P4, but then he tells him over the thing, I didn't get my lap wasn't clean. And so he feels like he missed something somewhere. And, the 45 gets the pole. But overall on the day, Saturday, Ryan looked super,
Yeah, and so before we jump into the rest of the race recap, I'll say that this was not something that shocked us. And if anyone been listening to our show when we did the preview show for the regular season, when we talked about, the quick preview for this race at the end of our show last week, we brought up the fact that while in the next gen car for the first few years, statistically, Ryan struggled on paper. Last year, huge improvements were made in speed, somewhat in qualifying, somewhat in finishes, but we saw it and we talked about it. We talked about it with Ryan himself. He said he did a lot of work in the sim work. You've heard, if you watched the truck race, you heard Lane Riggs thank Joey Hand. All the Ford drivers are talking about Joey Hand and what he has done to help improve them on road courses. Ryan was no different. He worked a lot with him last year. And then whatever Jonathan and the team did setup wise last year, they have found speed on road courses. And I don't know if they looked at what they were doing on short tracks and the way their cornering ability and braking ability on short tracks, if that's what's translated over. But the speed did not surprise us because we saw a lot of that last season. Even if not all the finishes were there in the race, you could see it. Something had changed. And I think we're going to look, I know, and there's not as many road courses now this year, but still there's enough of them to make an impact. And it was good for the first one out of the gate in practice to, not be far off the pole and be one of the most talked about fast and consistent cars in qualifying and practice itself.
Yeah. So we get to Sunday and we have stages of 20, 45, 95. 6 sets of tires. Pit stall 33 open in front of him, and the 48 is going to be behind him. The 5 car has some sort of engine issue before they get started, and they want to plug it in. NASCAR says you plug it in, you go to the rear, and they say, we're not going to plug it in then. And it's kind of interesting because you would think, well, what if it's something terminal?
Yeah.
You know,
And plugging it in was them looking at, I guess, like the ECU diagnostics, but I guess you could theoretically tweak things if you get into that system. So, yeah.
Mhm. So the 43 had unapproved adjustment. He went to the rear, but I think he was already in the rear to begin with. So we got for spotting on this one. Of course, Timmy Mule has like the stadium section down there, and then Matt has the section going off of like 18, 19, 20. And if you guys, I'm going to try, I will give some of these turns. And if you watched TikTok live last week, Adam is going to try and do a live every week if he can, either Wednesday or Thursday, one of these nights. He'll be on TikTok, on our TikTok live, doing the track that we're going to be running that week. So you'll get some ins and outs. And it was great because I think I posted a full lap, right, of you running.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think so.
to me, I learned more watching that. And then, you know, what's funny is some of the things that you gained, some of the advantages that you gained, points that you used, you know, as a novice. I mean, you know, you don't really like road course racing on the game, but like coming out of 6B into 7, you did that a couple times to pass people, and sure enough, Ryan did the same thing a couple times on the day.
Yeah. I was really surprised what that did for me because I know going into last week, I just started this whole NASCAR 25 streaming thing on our TikTok a couple weeks ago. And going into this week, I was like, oh man, it's COTA, it's a road course. I'm not really good at it. I haven't really played a ton of the game, but watching the race itself, it's like, and I've watched every COTA race since they went there. And then obviously I know the track changed a little bit last year when they went to the shorter version. But it actually enhanced my viewing experience of the race, especially because the in-car view is very similar to the view I was using in the game. And I knew like where he was on track, like at all times, where at some other times I wouldn't necessarily know. But while I still didn't really necessarily run really well in those streams, it was helpful just in watching.
You know, I'm going to say preview this week, you know, will be Phoenix, right? So we're going to see if Adam will run the dog leg or not run the dog leg. And we'll do some laps each way just to see the difference and watch the car bounce and, you know, and see what the lap times are like. So high line into 2 or 1 and 2 down that end, or the low line and try to cut it lower. And yeah, so something to look forward to on TikTok live this week with Adam running NASCAR 25. So Tim, of course, says save all day here. And the 71 is behind us for the start. And I have, you know, because Captain Low Percentage is right there. And we really, you know, just, you know, my biggest fear of this track more than any other road course is going up into turn 1. As few restarts as possible. And please don't be in the middle of the pirouettes when people start bouncing off each other.
And the thing about the 71 driver, especially on these tracks, he is one of the better road course racers. But if you looked at him running a lap and you looked at SVG running a lap, SVG is like about finesse and being technical. And the 71 is more the traditional, like good NASCAR racer style road course racer where it's sloppy. He's hitting lots of curbs and he's bustling and he's bumping into guys, bumping off of guys. So they make speed both ways, but one is scarier than the other.
Yeah. So lap 1, we get through 1. P4 right where we started. So the 17 and the 45 are battling for the lead in front of us. The 17 leads for a little bit. By lap 3, the 17 is leading with the 45 chasing him. And, you know, we're still back there. And then lap 4 here, we passed the 45 in turn 12 up to P3. And now we're right behind the 1 car. So 17, 1. At lap 5, passing the 1 in turn 12 again. Tim says fastest car on the track here as we go to P2. And lap 6 here, 4/10 better than the 19. So the guy we're chasing, you know, at lap 9 here, passes the 19 and turns 17 here to get to P1. At this point, I've got SVG, and I'm going to keep track of SVG a little bit here in this early part because we know that of all the cars, he's the guy that will drive better than the cars even, has the ability sometimes. So P6, he is 3.568 back at the laps in. Lap 10 here, we now have a 1.23 second lead on the 19. So we've already gapped the 19 by almost over a second. SVG is back 3.728 in P5. So he passed somebody, but he's still losing ground to us, which is great. Means we're running great laps out front. And this is something later on that we'll probably talk about in strategy stuff. This car needed to be out front. This car ran its best laps when it was in the lead in the clean air. And then later on, when he's not in the clean air, we see a little bit of a difference, and that's just the way it is with whether it's a road course or just a 1.5 mile track sometimes. So at lap 12 here, 4.414 ahead of the one. Actually, the one actually had passed the 19. S got himself to fourth now, but he's 6.197 back. So he's having problems even once he gets past somebody and gets some clean air on his nose. He's still having problems catching. A lap 14 here, over 5 seconds ahead of the one car. SVG's made it to P3, but he's 7 seconds back. And, at lap 16 here, some of the cars starting to pit. So now we're starting to get the cycle to going into the end of the stage. At lap 17 here, we're going to pit the next time by. We have like a 6.933 second lead on in the one car. SVG is P3 and he is 9.29 back. We get a 10.760 stop, which on the day, these 10-second stops are pretty good. And we're going to find out later on in one of our pit stops later on how good it really is. Lap 18 here, we're somewhere around P14 here, and the 1 and the 97 stay out. At lap 20, the 1 wins the stage. Ryan is P14. They kind of, when they know they're in a position at this point where they're not going to be passed or passing anybody, they kind of back off a little bit and save tires a little bit too. So Jonathan and Ryan talk about the lap times at the end of the run, and they were still better than everyone else, when they were like lap 15 and 16 on that run.
So maybe right away here, we should talk about the strategy stuff just to set up the rest of the day and just give some context to why they probably chose the way they chose. I said at the top of the show, for a good chunk of the time in the next gen car, statistically not the best on road courses, not really winning speed like this very often. So what we usually see with this team historically is they go for stage points knowing that their finish might not be the best. So that when you stay out to win the stage, you're going to sacrifice a lot of track position after that, for the most part. Sometimes, even though Ryan did have a really big lead, you've seen other drivers be able to stay out or to pit and then still come back and get stage points. That happens actually a little bit later. So normally, again, historically with this team, they don't win practice. They don't qualify really well, and they don't have absolute obvious winning speed in the race. So they almost always go for the points and then get back into the middle of the pack, sometimes get bounced around a little bit, and then eventually race their way back up to a decent finish. Their decision here was, we have a fast car. We just passed everybody. We were a rocket ship in clean air. This is the time we should probably go for the lead, or go for the lead and go for the win in this race and sacrifice the stage points. So that's going to set up the rest of the day. Yeah. But clean just want to add some context to that. So
right, and that's why I said clean air is king. This car, with him driving it out in front, able to run laps where he doesn't have to try to nudge, bump, get behind, try to figure out how to get by somebody, get in the dirty air of somebody, because they're going to run the same line, and especially since they put the barriers up in 2, 3, 4, 5 there, all those barriers that they running through up there, they were running the exact same line because nobody could cheat those things. And they ran as close to them as they could, the car hitting them a number of times that you could hear in the in-car camera. So
how about that? That was not a storyline this year, because they put those up last year. It was all about people getting penalties. People should have gotten a penalty. They shouldn't have got it. Shouldn't have. It was nice to not have that added thing. So.
Yeah. So, so for the cars that there are some of the cars that flip the stage, like the 45, the 5, the 24, the 19, the 20. We're back to P1 though. SVG pit and ends up pitting. He's 16th. So that's like 14 or 15 cars flip the stage at that point. As a matter of fact, the one car stop ends up 21st. another good reason not to, if you have that pit stop, it kind of screwing you up a little bit. So Ryan takes left lane for this choose. So he's inside on turn 1, 45 on the outside, restart lap 24. And the 88 gets wrecked into 1 here. So once again, another good reason not to be in that pack going up the hill, right? The 45, though, gets by us as this is all happening too. And now we're going to be P2 for a little while. And I tell you what, in-car camera was worth every penny I paid for on this run right here behind. Because, I'm watching timing and scoring on the phone, but also how good he was running right behind the guy who ends up winning this race. And at that point, their cars were pretty even. Would have been great once again to get into clean air, because I think if he gets into clean air, he probably could gap the 45 even. But lap 25 here, we're closing in on him. We're only about 8/10 back with the 24 behind us. Lap 26, 4.449 back. The 4 hit the wall on 6A, but he gets it moving, which is nice. I mean, if there's no cautions here and we let all the strategy play out the way we've mapped it, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I thought so. Lap 27 here, 5.548 back, so half a second. Lap 29, he closed it back up again, 0.347 back at the 45. Now, mind you, this is at the start finish line, and it was real interesting because he would close the gap on the bottom half of the section of the turns, from okay, so they go through 6B and it hangs a left at 6B. Then the next turn technically is 12 because they've cut off part of the track. So 12, 13, 14, 15, through that stadium area, all those turns, he starts gaining in those areas there, which is really interesting. He might lose the 45 in some of the longer, straighter sections, but in all the turns, his car was handling way better. At lap 31, 0.593 back of the 45, 0.4 better than the 24. So the 24 who's behind us, we're starting to gap. And now we're actually 1 second ahead of him. SVG, here we go. We'll keep track of SVG again at this point. He is P8, 6.796 back of the lead. So here's a guy who didn't flip the stage, and he's still, back there. Now he's going to flip the next stage just to make sure, But lap 34, 0.437 back of the 45, and then the 24 is now over 2.5 seconds back of the leader. So he is 2 seconds behind us. At lap 6 here, we are over a second back at this point. SVG's gotten himself to 4th, but he's 7 seconds behind. Tim asked for a balance update. I think Ryan said something to the extent, give me more horsepower and make it turn better. I mean,
Yeah. His initial comment was tongue in cheek. He said, yeah, I need 50 more horsepower and more turn or something like that.
More turn, yeah.
And then he waits a beat or two, and then he comes back on again. Okay, so really what I need is
he's just a little more tighter. I'm a little more tighter this run, he said at that point. So lap 38 here, he gains again. He's only 0.74 back, and SVG once again is still over 7.5 seconds back in P4. And literally the same lap times as Ryan. They're running the same as lap times as SVG, who's trying to chase them. Lap 42, cars start pitting. The 45 pits in front of us. Let's see here. We pit the next time by, and this is a 10.360 stop. Then we got the 43 pitting in front of us. The 97 flips the stage too. So 97 pits too. So he's going to play the rest of this day. The 45 and the 12 are. 54 stays out here. Lap 44, Ryan is P7. The 45 is P5. So even though they flip the stage, they're both in the points area. At the end of the stage here. Jonathan talks about looking at the diagnostics page on the front stretch because he's actually talking about the horsepower and he wants to see something, but he's got to be running at full speed to do it, and they can't really do that because of the end of the stage. The 54 wins the stage. Ryan's P7, so we get stage points too with flipping the stage. So that goes pretty well.
So let's circle back to the strategy situation again. There's nothing we saw in that run to say that they didn't still have winning speed or the potential to win. So they decide to stay on the same strategy again. They're going for a win. They're not going for max stage points. And it was a bonus actually for them to pick up a few stage points here. So they're just going to keep going with what they're going. The 45 was in sight. He could get to him at times. What do you think about the horsepower situation? Because this becomes a talking point on TV, on the TV broadcast. I think at one point they even say, man, it looks like that 45 has 850 horsepower and everybody else is, running with 100 less. And they pointed out in watching the in-car camera, I even think I said it to you, man, they come out of the last turn and the 45 just takes off like a rocket ship. And Ryan notices it. So that's why he's mentioned it a few times. Like he can't keep up with him on the straightaway. What I will say is
sometimes
I'm not putting on a tinfoil hat and saying, oh, the lawsuit this, they're doing that, they're cheating up the 45 car. I think it's a situation of they've found something, and this isn't the first week that someone's mentioned something about the 45 and 23. They even mentioned at Atlanta that they were able to make moves other people couldn't because it seemed like they had more horsepower as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's actual horsepower. It could be an aero advantage they found, something. But it has been interesting to watch, spoiler alert, Reddick wins 3 in a row here, that how quickly people turn on teams that have success, because now all of a sudden it's either cheating or it's rigged or, it's run the gamut of typical social media things. But part of it's because the TV broadcast brings it up, and it was also obvious if you're just watching you're watching the in-car cameras, and you could see they had speed. But hey, several years ago, the 4-car was destroying everybody and won 9 races, and we did find out they did find an aero advantage that NASCAR patched up in the rule book the next year. But maybe that's something we're looking at. I don't know.
Yeah, that or setup too, especially with the road course. I mean, like I said, Ryan in the lower, like I said, in the stadium section area and those turns was doing way better coming in and out of those turns, handling wise. But when he come off of 20, you're right. For some reason, if you watch, Ryan came off 20 a lot wider every time, where the 45 cut it a little shorter and was able to actually get to the accelerator a little quicker. And I say a little, we're only talking about a 1/10, 2/10 a lap, because like I said, when they get down to the other end of the track again, Ryan would close that gap back up and sometimes gain. So, it's that close. It's that competitive on the day. And like I said, if they can get to the clean air, if they could get to one restart at stage 3 and stay green, and everything else could play out and get in front of him, it might have been ball game. So lap 48, the pit's open. 45 is P1 though, and we're P2. And you've got the 24 and P3 and the 94 here. We choose, let's see here. I've got the 45 on the inside or to the left. Ryan is to the outside or to the right, heading up the hill. 24 behind the 45, the 97 behind us. So I kind of felt good about that on one hand, because he's up there and ram you unless somebody rams him. And secondly, the only thing that's bad about it is he's so good at a technical turn like that, So we restart lap 50. Tim says guard the middle best we can. We get behind the 45 in 1 and the 19 behind, the 97 is all the way back to P5. 1 here. We're 3/10 back of the 45. They're P1, we're P2. We're right there. Lap 54, 0.477 back of him. Lap 57 here, 0.519, only half a second back of the 45. Lap 59 here, Ryan asked them to check the right front, because going through, what would that be? 3, 4, I think 4. He may have hit the right front right on one of the barriers there. You could hear the noise through the in-car. He's still 0.522 back of him, running the same lap times. Like I said, he gains on him in turns 14, 15, 16. Wherever he loses one end of the track, he gains it on the other end of the track. At lap 62 here, 0.606 back of P1. Now, SVG has gotten to P3, but he's 4.788 back. And then the 20 is pitting here. The 19 broke something. At lap 65, the cars are all starting to pit more and more. And now we're 1.221 back. And I think we've used up a little bit of tire, and because a couple times he slides it here, and then later on too he does that too. So he's trying to go deeper into the turn, brake harder, and get to him, but it's he's losing a little ground. At lap 67, we're 1.146 back. SVG is P3.299 back. And I took a note because I asked you, I forgot the fuel window was like 37 to 42 laps. Now we're inside the fuel window. So when are we going to pit here? At lap 69, we go ahead and pit. Now, I don't really recall, this was kind of brought up in some different chat areas, that the point in time he called the pit, he is about 1.8 seconds behind the 45, and they must have left enough time for the 45 to cover it because they both pit at the same time. Now, the pit stop for Ryan is a 10.040, which is pretty good. Like I said, this track, the 45's pit stop is 11.820. He literally makes up all the ground on pit road. As they're coming off pit road, Ryan is like, his nose is at the front wheel of the 40 road. Now, mind you, the 45's got the advantage going up the hill because he's on the inside. He just come out of his pit stall, which is at the top of pit road. So the 24 is leading at this point. At lap 70, 24 is P1, but Ryan and the 45 are 6th and 7th. And Ryan is 4/10ths back right now, 0.421 back of the 45. At lap 71, the 71 takes the lead. 45's P2, Ryan's P3. So here it is. We get this scenario where if it stays green to the end, we stay within the right distance. We force him to make the mistake. We force him to have an error. We force him to use up his car more than we've used up our car, and we might be in for something, right? And at lap 75, we get this caution for the 1. And in turn 19, he lost the wheel. And this is where all the armchair quarterbacks come out, right? Because this is one of those things, and I guarantee you they have, it's like if this one fits, then it. That one doesn't, then doesn't. And they do talk about this on the radio. Ford is the call. They're staying out. I think it was like 11 or 12 cars behind him stayed out, which is usually a pretty decent buffer at this point, too. With the number of laps left, though, we're going to have like 17, 18 laps left to the end. So
the only thing to note here, so the 71 was trying to run long. This messes up their strategy. They were hoping for to get they have the lead that they have to go on a lot longer, get fresher tires, and then be able to pass through to get the win. Note that the 20 car, I believe, was like right behind us before this pit stop. They're one of the ones that chooses to come in and get fresh tires. So the options were to stay out, obviously, pit to get fresh tires, and hope to pass your way back up through to a potential win or something. The strategy they choose with, again, as they've been doing all day long pretty much, is to stay as close to clean air as they possibly can. They're going to restart on the front row here for this final restart next to a car that they've been right with the entire race long. He has not passed him since the first stage when he fell backwards originally, but I still think if you're looking at, should I come get tires, go fall back into the pack, have to pass my way all the way up through, or should I give my driver a chance restarting on the front row to, as far as we know in this race, all he's really needed is if he could just get past him, he could gap him. Yeah. So he's basically putting it on to this first lap. Can he get side by side with the 45 and get the lead and then check out from there? I think, I mean, to me, there, like you said, lots of armchair crew chiefs out there. In the moment, I wanted them to stay out because I did not want him going back in the pack and then going through a restart through turn 1. I thought you stay out, you start on the front row, and you give the driver a chance to do what he can do to get the lead and take it into his own hands in that way. So that was my gut feeling, as it was playing out. So.
Me too. I mean, we've kind of like had the little battles online all day with people, but it's like, hindsight's 20/20 also. But look who won the race and how he won the race, right? And what really comes down to is we tried so hard for so long, and we ran out of tire. Now, if we had fresh tires, we'd have tried so hard for so long and maybe got a couple more positions than we did. That's what it comes down to. But in reality, at the end of the day, this whole day as a whole, was the smartest way to go. And we'll get to the standings when this, at the end of this. Um, 76 here. Here's what the top 10 looked like. It was the 45, the 12, the 90, 88, the 24, the 38, the 2, the 11, the 42, and the 35. And I point out the 88 was right behind us for this next restart. 71 comes off pit road 15th. Choosing 45 on the I got it to the right here, but I thought it was the left. And then 12, and then the 97, the 88's behind us. And this is somebody posted this on TikTok, the 88's in-car camera. This one is another one. He gets punted from behind. It comes from 2-3 people deep. He ends up 33rd and races his way back to like 14 by the end of this. He really had a hell of a day that could have been even better if he didn't get in the middle of the melee. And that's the one thing I didn't want to see have happen. And, so we restart lap 78. But in this, the 97 gets by us. So now we're P3. So even worse, we got to try to pass 2 guys. And the 45's leading. 38, the 88 were in that incident, and 1 on the restart. At lap 81, the top 4 are all within 2 seconds of each other. That's another thing. We've got a lot of things that could happen still with 14 laps to go here. And the 24 is behind us too, and he's doing pretty well. And really at this point, SVG's kind of holding us up. We look a little faster than him, especially once again down in turns 16, 17, 18. And lap 82, it's 1.182 back of P1. And at lap 84 here, now the 20 car is coming. We hear about him. Ryan is 1.631 back, though, of the 45. So really still within a distance, something happens, and we saw something happen years ago at the Roval, right? So we're still there. You got to still be in that position to have something like that happen. So we're there. And at lap 85 here, the 54 is on tires there. And the 20 does pass, so we're P4. Lap 86, the 54 comes up, we're P5. At lap 87 here, we've got the 71 with tires. P6 here, and the 5 is also coming. Lap 90 here, the 5 passes in turn 7. So, we're at lap 93 here. And like I said, those guys were all fresh tires at that point. But once again, I think we burnt up our tires to chase and trying to make something happen too. So, because they never catch the leader, they're way back of the leader by the end of this race, even though they're on fresh tires. So what's that tell you about the leader, right? What's that tell you about the fresh air? And we just tried to everything we could to try to get to that fresh air. If we get the proper and a really good restart and get in front of him, it would have been us, right? That's the thing that people are going to forget, because they're going to see that we finish 8th here with a drag race to the line with the 9 car, and the 45 wins, and he wins by like over 4 or 5 seconds on SVG. So once again, SVG burned it all up too, and they were all on the same strategy, right? It's just you bunch the guys in the clean air, and you can't get to them within those first couple laps, and especially since it was go time, it just kind of like destroyed everything as far as trying to get to anybody. And they still salvaged a pretty good finish off of this. And I think it was a great day. It showed really good how strong they were. The best Ford team on the road course, and they're the best Penske team on the road course, obviously. And I think he's the best road course driver that they've got over in the Ford camp.
Yeah. So overall thing on the strategy, because I've seen a lot between discussions in our Discord, comment sections on Penske posts, Ryan posts, all of our social media posts. So the different things they could have done with strategies. And I feel like in the end, especially if we only narrow in on the final stop, because immediately the first thing we're flooded with is, I can't believe they didn't come take tires. Why didn't they take tires on the last stop, ... I pointed out before the restart of the discussion, the 20 car was right behind Ryan, came into pit, got the tires. He did pass Ryan, but you just said Reddick still won by a lot. The 20 gets to what I described as a distant third place. So that wasn't the winning call. Ryan stayed out, at least had a shot at it on the front row to have an opportunity to get the clean air and pass. It didn't work out. Technically, that turns out to not be the winning call. So I said, as Blaney fans, after the race when we should be looking at the positives and how they've made
Yeah.
huge leaps on road courses and how they're fast. Instead, we've all been just arguing over how we wanted to watch our driver lose. So what was the best call to watch him lose? So that's kind of, I feel like that's where it stands. He wasn't able to get past the 45 all day after he was able to run with them. So again, that's why I still think on the final restart, my gut feeling was to say at least go in side by side into turn one and see if he can make something happen. Because if not, you're going to be doing what the 20 did, going all the way back in the field, having to pass your way back up through with those fresh tires and still maybe. And people pointed out, well, Ryan was faster than the 20. And I was like, okay, well, maybe he gets back to second. That's still a call to not win the race. At least the other call that they went with was one to at least give you an opportunity to win. It didn't work out. He fades. I think he fades, like you said, because he drove his off, trying to get to the leader, trying to stay with them, and that's why he ends up fading a little bit at the end. But still finishes with the top 10. The other thing we heard was, cannot believe he didn't go for stage points early on in the race. Well, guess what? Those that did go out and stay out for the stage points did not finish that well in the race. So it ends up being pretty much a wash points wise with the rest of the people. And I'll go through the point standings here to show why things with the speed they had, the finish that they had, still ended up looking pretty good when it comes to the point standings.
One racing thing, and it becomes more important, I guess, because of the new system, but I was proud of the fact that they didn't, because this told me that they had more trust in what they had under the hood and more trust in the driver to win the race. They were not playing a strategy of, well, let's hurry up and get our points, and well, we'll get some more points. And no, they decided in the meetings and after practice that we can win this damn thing, and we're going to try and do it. And that was really, really kind of big for me. It gave me a lot of confidence in them. I'm sure the driver had a lot of confidence in what he was doing. And like I said, if that final restart up the hill, he gets to a point where he gets past the 45, he's going to be the one that checks out. What he did down the stretches, I don't know how many times Tim and Mule said that he smoked the tires, but he smoked the tires like 3 or 4 times on that run. He burnt them up trying to make something happen. I give him credit for, I got to try, you can't not try. But so on the day, I was really excited with everything I saw, and the racing was great. And the standings, that's the best part.
Yeah, and I will say, next week when you hear us recap the race and how things go, I might sound like a hypocrite, because I will say, outside of the road course races where if you don't show speed, all the other races of the year, and then also, all the other races of the year on ovals and any road course where you don't show winning speed, they need to go for as many stage points as they possibly can. This was a unique situation where they had potential winning speed that you have to try and go for the win in that opportunity and be a little bit more aggressive. Starting immediately next week, I'm going to be talking about how they need to qualify well, and they need to get as many stage points as they possibly can and go out and also try to win the race. So don't get me wrong, you will hear, and I've even leading ahead before this race, when we did our season preview, I talked about how every point means more than it ever has before. So it might sound confusing for people to hear my take on this race specifically, but this is a unique situation on a road course where there's opportunity. If you want to win, you pretty much have to flip stages, and that's what they went with. So as I talked about, point standings wise though, Ryan Blaney, even with only a limited amount of stage points on the day and a top 10 finish, moves up 4 positions in the overall NASCAR Cup Series point standings to 4th overall, 86 points back of the leader, Tyler Reddick, who has now won the first 3 races of the season. The first time anyone has ever done that in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series. His teammate Bubba Wallace is in second. I think he had a top 15 finish. He's 70 points back of the leader. So for everyone that has wanted a return to what is close to a full season points format, the return to the chase, what NASCAR has done here is they've given bonus 15 more points to the winner for every race here. Tyler Reddick in the 45 has taken advantage of that, and they have a 70-point lead over second place 3 races into the season. So they are sitting in a good spot.
Bold prediction right now. Tyler Reddick does not win the regular season title.
Very possible.
Somebody will catch him. There'll be either a Hendrick car that catches him or a Penske car that catches him by the 26th race.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good battle, though, because this is a team that has won the regular season championship in the past. It's a team that, despite not winning any races last year, still finished top 10 in the point standings. So it is still a very strong team. I think it'll make for an interesting battle. But I think you're right. The 70-point lead is not going to last forever. So
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to fade into oblivion. He might finish second or third. He might finish second or third. But I think somebody else will put together a consistent charge, and the next 4 or 5 weeks will really show you that. And they'll gain on that 70 points, and it'll be a race by the time they get to week 26.
Yeah, and I know two of the guys that you're very keen on here are the next two in the standings. That's third and Chase Elliott in the 9 team, who's 72 points back. I said to you when we talked about it, like, that's a team that top 10s people to death. They've been strong in the points the last few years, even while their fans have been calling for their crew chief to go find work elsewhere. They were still winning races. I think they won 2 last year, still finishing really well in every race and high up in points. He's a threat for that. I already mentioned Ryan Blaney in 4th. This is a team that last year in the regular season finished runner-up in the regular season standings with 7 DNFs on the year. This is a team that knows how to accrue points throughout a championship season. The big surprise for many out here right now is Shane Van Gisbergen in 5th without winning a race yet, but finishing well at Atlanta, finishing well at Daytona, running well also in both those races for stage points, and then getting a solid finish this week at COTA. Is 5th in the standings. Teammate Joey Logano is, I would say, quietly in 6th place. Daniel Suarez, probably one of the surprises of the top 10, is in 7th. AJ Allmendinger, with his strong finish, though he was ill getting out of the race car, very dehydrated, exhausted after this race, did get a top 10, and he's 8th overall in the standings. Michael McDowell and Carson Hocevar, the other 2 Spire teammates, are 9th and 10th, so all 3 Spire cars are in the top 10 in the standings right now. Chris Buescher's 11th, Brad Keselowski is 12th, William Byron 13th, Zane Smith, who was the talk of the standings last week, fell to 14th overall, fell 9 positions to 14th. Kyle Larson's in 15th, and holding down the last spot in the current chase is Ryan Preece in 16th. So all 3 RFK cars are in the top 16 right now. Notables on the outside looking in: Ross Chastain in 20th, Kyle Busch in 22nd, Denny Hamlin in 23rd, Christopher Bell in 24th, Chase Briscoe 27th, Cindric, our teammate, in 31st. And then this is, I don't want to call it fun, but this is an interesting thing I saw somebody point out earlier today. The 3, the 43, and the 48 cars. So the 3 historic cars that have won 7 Cup championships apiece are 34th, 35th, and 36th in the standings right now, all side by side. So that's where we are right now. Again, Ryan Blaney up 4 positions in the Cup Series standings to 4th place overall, 86 points back of the leader, Tyler Reddick, after the race in top 10 finish at Circuit of the Americas. So that brings us to one more recap from the weekend that we have to go over, and that involves the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. Normally, I'm not super excited about this segment of the show, but I know you have all kinds of sayings and all kinds of memes to describe my weekend, but I had a really great week in fantasy for once. Let's take a look at my starting lineup and finish, and we'll go through yours as well. Chase Elliott got me 33 points. Tyler Reddick, the winner, 61. Shane Van Gisbergen got me 45. AJ Allmendinger got me 43. Christopher Bell got me 34. Had Chase Briscoe in the garage, which at one point in this race I thought was a mistake. But he had that mechanical issue. I think it may have been an axle, something broke on the car. So only 1 point left in the garage there. Featured matchups, I picked SVG over Zilich. That was correct. I picked Reddick over Byron, obviously correct. I picked Kyle Busch over Chastain, correct. And the one that I got wrong, I picked Briscoe over Ty Gibbs. 246 points earned on the weekend. I can't remember the last time I pulled that off. Second overall on the weekend in the league for me. not a bad showing. What did you? How did things shape up for you this week?
Yeah. I think I ended up stuck with Briscoe at one point, and that didn't help me at all. And Chastain, I had him in the lineup too, and that didn't help me at all. So I think I had Bell, Elliott, Reddick, so pretty good there with those guys. But yeah, I got stuck there at the end. The thing it's really hard with the road courses is the guys flipping stages, right? So I leave Ryan. I had Ryan ready in the garage, but on the other hand, some of these other guys were trying to do some stage points, and I thought, oh well, we'll go with the guys that getting some stage points. And then, like I said, it just all fell apart. And then the matchups too. I had Chastain and Briscoe winning their matchups, and they did not. So there's 20 more points left on the table. So overall, for me, I don't even know where it ended up. As crappy as what it ended up being. I think it was 162 points, and wherever that placed, not so good.
Yeah,
I know we're
not. Wow, when I'm scrolling, so I'm not used to that. 72nd overall for you, 162 points on the weekend. And I think at one point before the end of the second stage, I had mentioned that you and Kate were both up doing really well as they ran. Probably, I don't think so. So it didn't work out for you. It works out for Kate. So let's go over the top 10 in points earned this week at Circuit of the Americas in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. In 10th, Factory of Sadness 6, 235 points. Hashtag LGM and No Hesitation are tied for 8th with 239. Kate Mez is tied for 6th with my cousin Vinny at 242 points. Angie 12, Robach 17, and 12 Blaney are tied for 3rd with 243 points on the weekend. Myself, Team Blaney host Adam 246 in 2nd, and then APP 22662 wins the weekend, 253 points overall. So I'm glad that there's a little bit of a gap there, because I would have been a little bit more sad if I'd missed out on the win by 1 point. I think the last time I did this well, it was only 1 or 2 points for me missing out on the victory. Overall standings now in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. Last week, I was 42nd, I think. So this tells you how close the whole league is this early in the season.
Yeah.
I vault from the 40s to 13th overall with 553 points on the season so far. Let's take a look to try to find you. And then you were the opposite. You were doing well. I think top 15, 44th overall for you in a tie, 504 points on the season so far. But it's still super tight. I mean, that's stage points right there in the next race.
Yeah.
It's interesting how tight things are very early on in the season, especially coming off of 3 kind of wild card races between 2 super speedway style tracks and a road course. Let's take a look at the top 10 in the overall standings in Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. It starts with a 3-way tie for 8th between Glitterbugs, Racing Girl 12, and Bears Motor Club, 564 points. 7th overall, a perennial top 10 favorite in the league, Blaney Kicks Beep at 566 points. Fike 21 is in 6th, 568 on the year. The Buckeye Bullet is in 5th, 573 points. One ahead of him, or I'm assuming one ahead of them, is Angie 12 in 4th, 574 points. Zero Schlitz Given, another one of my favorites on here, 3rd overall, 584. RF Blaney 12 is in 2nd, 602 points on the year. And Pit Stop Pro leads the way, 606 points overall, leader in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League.
RF Blaney 12. Is that Jerry?
Maybe. I'm not sure, but if it is, congratulations.
Yeah, he's remembering to put his lineup in this year. Are you going to just kick everybody out who has 0 at this point?
So anyone at the bottom of this list, probably maybe tonight I'll take a look at it, and I'll move some of those out and open up some opportunities for people that are trying to get into the league still, because there's still plenty of time to get in there, gain enough points to still finish well in the league overall. So I think that wraps us up with the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. So now we can look ahead to this weekend's race as the NASCAR Cup Series heads out further west to Phoenix for the racing weekend at Phoenix Raceway. Things for the NASCAR Cup Series kick off at noon Eastern time on Saturday, March 7th with NASCAR Cup Series practice. You can watch that on Prime, streaming on Prime, MRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio, followed at 1:10 p.m. Eastern time with qualifying from Phoenix, all on the same places. The GovX 200 for the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the evening on the CW network, MRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio. Sunday, March 8th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Straight Talk Wireless 500. This is new streaming on Fox One, which is their new kind of all-encompassing streaming platform for Fox. And this is the first time we fall off of network TV in the Cup Series in 2026. We go to FS1 for the race at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the Cup Series. HBO Max for the in-car cameras, MRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio. I also believe this weekend is the clock change. So we have to spring ahead for those of us that do that twice a year. So remember that you could show up late for the race if you don't set your clocks properly. So think about that. So remember Saturday night before you go to bed, if you are in any time zones that do make the change, spring ahead so you'll be there in time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the Cup race.
Can I throw a couple of extra things in there? This weekend is also IndyCar at Phoenix.
Good point.
Okay. And so actually the way this is working is Friday at 10 o'clock, IndyCar practice. 2 o'clock Friday, IndyCar qualifying. Then they have another IndyCar practice at 4:30, and then at 7 o'clock Friday night is O'Reilly's practice and qualifying. Now I point this out because I actually asked Mule this question today. IndyCar is going to be a different tire compound, but every time during the weekend, IndyCar runs, and then the O'Reilly series runs right after to pick up all the rubber. So the Cup guys should not see any problems with the rubber as far as Cup goes, because on Saturday, CW will show the Cup practice qualifying, but then the IndyCar race will be Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock on Fox, and then the O'Reilly's race Saturday night at 7:30. Once again, IndyCar on the track at 3, but then the O'Reilly series on the track right after it. So O'Reilly's will clean up that rubber again. And as far as racing lines, I asked this question too, and the IndyCars will not cut the dog leg. They won't.
No,
so,
I don't think there's enough clearance in their underbody to make that happen.
But it should be fun to watch. I'll tell you what. So good weekend packed full of racing. I think F1 is this weekend too, but I don't know where you can find it because they're not on ESPN anymore. But anyways, O'Reilly's racing has been really good so far this year, and then the IndyCar will be on track at Phoenix also. So that'll be a lot of fun and a lot of Penske guys running, of course, in IndyCar.
Yeah, and I have to say, having just gone down to the truck race, which was on essentially an IndyCar weekend, and they were the support series. It's a great ticket to be able to go down there and see both. I've never been to Phoenix Raceway, but now that the championship isn't there for now, the spring race would not be a bad one to go out to if they keep up with this doubleheader, because it'd be really cool to see Indy cars on track, watch the O'Reilly Series race, and then the next day go and see the Cup Series race. So let's take a look at Ryan Blaney's statistics at Phoenix Raceway. I hear he's not too shabby at that track out there out west. 20 starts overall in his career, 463 laps led, average start 7.4, average finish 10.9. So not statistically his best, but it's in the top 3, I believe, overall. He does have 3 DNFs there, including in the spring race last year when he lost an engine. 1 win, 10 top 5s, 14 top 10s, won the 2023 championship with a runner-up finish there in the fall race, and then in the fall race in 2025, on a late race restart, muscled his way to the victory. Probably one of his most forgotten victories of his career, just because of everything that happened with the championship race last year, and Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson and the late restart. But Ryan finally went to victory lane at Phoenix after all those top 5s, all those top 10s, all those amazing runs over his career. Now that he's got that monkey off his back, Steve, is this the time where the team gets the monkey off their back and wins in the spring? Because they always seem to have the strongest car in the fall, even though they still have an incredible streak of. Let me go over these finishes. Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people will say they don't perform in the spring race, but quite honestly, they still do finish wise. I'm going to go all the way back to 2019 in the previous generation car. There's 2 bad finishes over the stretch. It's since 2019. 37th, he was involved in a crash in the spring race 2020. 6th, 10th, 4th, 2nd, 2nd, 5th, 2nd, 28th in the spring last year when they blew an engine. 1st. It's almost like looking at his Martinsville statistics, but with a couple bad finishes thrown in. Absolutely insane what this team has been able to do at Phoenix Raceway across 2 different generations of race car. One of his best tracks on the series. I'm excited for them to get back to regular oval racing in 2026. And I think it's an opportunity to see, we mentioned some interesting teams in the top 10 in the point standings, all 3 Spire cars, all 3 RFK cars. There are some other surprises in the top 16 overall. Here's an opportunity to see maybe where the whole field stands before we get to Las Vegas, where I think we really, really will see where everybody stands, including those 2311 cars. Let's see where they really are up against the entire field.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Is the first 3 weeks, like somebody today was talking to me about, Reddick, and the truth is the first 2 weeks don't really prove a lot. I mean, there's certain skill set, don't be wrong, to be there at the end of those races, but things had to fall just right, and they did fall just right for him, and he was in the right spot. Now, what he just did this past weekend really was about some skill level stuff, right? Now let's see, like you said, let's see what the program for them and the Toyotas show on a flat short track, with the new package, by the way, too. So that'll be really interesting. And a lot of people, seem to think that this is going to be really beneficial to Ryan, that he's even better with this package. So can't wait to see that.
The other thing to consider is the fact that they went to the Phoenix race in the fall last year with an even softer tire that people were pushing to their limits. So now they're coming back with the same tire and more horsepower. Practice might be something you really want to pay attention to. And if you want to watch that practice noon Eastern time on Saturday, you can watch it on Prime, followed by qualifying at 1:10 p.m. Eastern time from Phoenix Raceway for the Cup Series. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, streaming on Fox 1, in-car cameras on HBO Max, on cable, FS1, MRN, SiriusXM, NASCAR radio on the radio. Well, Steve, I think that actually pretty much wraps up this week's episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Thank you, everyone that's tuning in live as we record right now on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. And all of those that also will download the episode later in an audio version. We thank you for tuning in. During the week and on race day, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So, for my co-host, Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Remember, if it's not fun, make it fun with some 10 runner. Good night, Sussex Inlet. Check out the TikTok.